Hi there, this is called the Slobodjan Dilworth, and it's in the Dilworth variation of the Spanish Open, and it's from the 1999 game between Jebuadze and Slobodjan. e4 and e5, knight f3, knight c6. The Spanish bishop b5 is met by a6, which kicks the bishop back to a4. Knight f6 targets e4, to which white simply castles. Black enters into the open variation of the Spanish with knight takes on e4, and d4 here by white is preferred to the more natural looking rook e1. d4 prizes open the center. Black will respond typically with b5, sending the bishop back to b3, and black consolidates the center by supporting the knight on e4 with the move d5, and now white gains the pawn back with d takes on e5. Bishop e6 supports the loose pawn on d5, and the most popular move, as I mentioned in the previous Dilworth trap video, is c3 by white. The last minor piece of black's is developed to c5, bishop to c5, knight b2, white develops, putting pressure on the knight on e4, but black tucks his king into safety with castles, and now bishop c2 reroutes the bishop from b3 and threatening to win a pawn with the capture on e4. Well, in the Dilworth variation, black captures on f2. And Arthur Yusupov, one of the few grandmasters who has regularly played this opening, knight takes on f2, where black's going to pick up a rook and a pawn for two minor pieces. Usually not a particular favourable exchange, but here it has its benefits. So knight takes on f2 is met by rook takes f2. f6, black in no rush to recapture and take the rook on f2, rather wants to open up the f file with f6. After e takes on f6, now bishop takes f2, king takes f2, and the capture of the f pawn with queen takes on f6. In the previous video, Dilworth is worth a piece, we looked at this most common move, knight to f1, which releases the bishop on c1, but also very playable for white is to get the king out of harm's way and play king g1 and release the knight on f3 from the pin. So after king g1, black can respond in one of two candidate move ways, with rook a e8 or bishop g4. Bishop g4 looks more pressing, but perhaps not as accurate as rook a e8. After bishop to g4, we've got white with a slight, very slight edge here, but white can go wrong by trying to activate his queen with a slalom-like maneuver, queen e2 and d3. Why doesn't that work? Well, after queen to e2, now rook a e8 hits the queen, queen d3. White wants to get the queen to d3, which not only hits d5 but hits h7. So it looks like as if white's doing okay, but here black is in the ascendancy. Black can play rook e1 check, and it looks like white is actually busted. If white plays king to f2, then queen h4 is a lovely winning line, defending the rook on e1, hitting the king with check, and the queen immune from capture because the knight on f3 is pinned. After that check, rook e1, if the knight drops back from d2 to f1, looks like a serious defense, but black can prize open the white king with bishop takes on f3, which allows this capture on h7, but it amounts to nothing as far as white's concerned. Queen takes h7 check, king f7. Now the recapture on f3 is met by knight e5. The knight joins the attack, and the game might finish thus: king f2 hitting the rook on e1, but an exchange sack here is called for. Rook takes f1. After king takes f1, queen takes f3 check. The king moves over to g1. Queen g4 is going to send the king into the corner. The king doesn't want to go to the f file because then the rook is going to join the attack. So king h1 is met by king e6 anyway, with the threat of mate on f1. And if the queen's bishop comes out, say, to d2 in order to release the rook on a1 to defend the first rank. Rook d2 is going to lose to queen f3 check, king g1, queen f2 check, supported by the rook, and that's going to pick up the bishop on d2 with a 1 position for black. So this has been the Slobodjan Dilworth in the Dilworth variation of the Spanish. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.